Is it bad that I made my dad avoid me now all BC? I don't want him slapping my butt. I-17 Yo female finally spoke up about how I feel about my dad slapping my butt for no reason, and when I told him how I feel he called me cold and bitter all BC. I don't want to be slapped there, and he goes and says, would you rather have me slap you behind your head? And I just wanted to say, maybe just don't slap me at all for no reason. But couldn't cause it's hard to stand up to my dad, so when I did, all I did was just say, I don't like it, and then went into my room. The next hour we left to head to my grandma's house for a family get-together. I had fun, but my dad was just avoiding everyone, barely talking, and he always talks to his family. When we left to go home, my mom took me in her room and discussed what happened earlier. She wanted to make sure he didn't do anything inappropriate to my based on my actions earlier, but in reality I just don't like it when he does that. He's not a pervert. Can I not just say I don't want that happening to me? He's just messing around. There are many ways to mess around. Now he won't talk to me. He won't pick up his baby daughter BC of what I will think. But I don't think that at all. Is it my fault? Edit. I've been seeing the comments under this and I understand why you guys think that way, but to make it clear, he ain't like that at all. Now, if you guys are going to say he is, the way I told him all annoyed and upset made him think I see him as a pervert, which I don't. But his words did concern me. I have been playing his game at avoiding each other and not talking BC. What I did, I don't think was wrong, and I don't need to apologize. My dad's behavior led him to distance himself from his family a little. He would be in his room and come out for like an hour or two. I don't know how long this will last, but at this point I don't really care BC. My focus is on school. I don't need to worry about this. My dad can talk to me and tell me his actions are in the wrong. He isn't a pervert. He's been doing it when he was young in a playful way, not in a weird way. But now that I'm older, I don't want that. My family might not see a wrong, but it's a boundary I don't want anyone to do to me. As a dad of a daughter your age, I would not ever think of smacking your butt. So sorry you were going through this. You have every right to ask him not to do that, and he shouldn't be taking offense to your request. Exactly. Hug. Maybe a kiss on the top of the head. High five. High fives are good. Love me a good high five. I've heard when it swings down after to the low five for a double five, an angel gets their wings. Or even better, a running high five. When your hands meet at a combined speed of 15 miles per hour, it makes the most satisfying smack. Love me a good high five that turns in a low five. They too slow for lol. I love it when a high five turns into a butt slap. Oh wait, no, never mind. Reminds me of Key and Peele. Slap ass. Skit. 17 isn't too old for horseplay either, just so long as both sides are having fun. Edit. Asterisk. So there are a bunch of people interpreting this as an endorsement of the dad's behavior. It's not. We clearly have one side not having fun. What I am endorsing is don't treat your girls like they are suddenly made of glass when they hit their teen years. Especially true if you have boys that you continue to play rough with. Some father-daughter bonding takes the form of rough play like splash fight, and pushing each other in the snow and shouldering each other over for space on the couch, and a million other forms of less gentle touch that they typically don't get from moms. It is harmful for girls if this is the type of attention they crave and it's denied to them because they are girls. So to reiterate, 17 isn't too old for horseplay so long as both sides are having fun. Exactly. All she said is she doesn't like it. And now dad is pouting and making a mountain out of a molehill. I would argue that it is a mountain if the dad doesn't understand consent and the word no or stop. Yeah, the dad's reaction is what alarms me. Maybe they had some rough housing or similar dynamics, but you'd hope that a parent would pick up on the fact that their reaction was changing, and would especially understand stop. No is a full sentence. He did stop, though. She also states he's not being a perv when he does it. She just doesn't like it. While I would never do what he is doing, he may have been in sports when he was younger or has been a coach, because the butt slap is pretty common among them. Judging on how he's responding about being asked to stop, I think it has dawned on him that it's inappropriate and he feels very uncomfortable with himself and embarrassed, so he has distanced himself from his daughters because of this newfound perception. If I had to guess, he'll get over it eventually and stop doing it entirely. He's not a pervert, but he calls her cold and bitter? That's the exact word sexual harassers use when their intended target tells them no. And consent isn't just about sex. The dad thinks he has some right to access her body, non-sexually or otherwise. And he does not. And if he felt weird or awkward, why not just say, sorry, and move on? A week or more of isolating her is not the move to make. I won't say it implicates him of anything more than maybe just being shitty at communicating. But being a father to a teen girl, the man had better get good, fast, or there's going to be further issues. The dad is checking a ton of boxes on the sex abuse checklist. He directly threatened her with slapping her in the head, in response to her saying she didn't want him slapping her butt. Then he completely ignored that she said, "I don't like it," and then he starts with the textbook, cold and bitter, insult and the mounts out of molehill. It's a punishment for daring to say no. No to what? To him touching her body in ways she does not want. Dad's sick, the only question is how much. It looks like he's sulking, which makes me want to check his computer. Why is he acting so guilty? It's weird. Should he not act guilty upon realizing that he has been doing something regularly that has been making his daughter uncomfortable? And probably now feels like a creep for having done it at all in the first place. I mean, no one is defending his past actions of slapping the butt of OP, but at what point do we not immediately jump to the person as a pedo and dangerous and violent, etc., every single chance possible? I mean, it's just as easy to say, why are you so set on casting the dad as a creep and pedo? Guilty conscience much? A moment of guilt is one thing, but sulking after insulting her with words used by sexual harassers? If the dude was on the level, he would feel bad and apologize. Instead, he insulted and isolated. Something is wrong there. At the very least, his behavior is immature. Lashing out at your daughter for setting a boundary is not a healthy reaction. The guy needs help. Begrudgingly stopping isn't stopping. It is justifying, coercing to loosen boundaries. Honestly, the last part of Op's post where she said he won't even pick up his baby daughter over how he thinks it would make Op feel is kind of not good emo. Like, why does it matter what Op thinks about how he interacts with others if he's not causing harm? The fact everyone in her family assumed something sexual was going on for her very reasonable request makes me kind of uncomfortable. Why is that the first thing they thought about with a minor? I'm a little concerned that the mother pulled her aside and asked if he did anything inappropriate. Like, why assume that? I will tell you this, a 17-year-old does not necessarily know when a dad is or is not being a perv. The older I get, the more I realize how really messed up a lot of people are. I used to give full benefit of the doubt. I've been proven wrong way too many times. I come from a pretty conservative upbringing, and we were not very open with displays of affection, outside of hugging each other during the holidays or family gatherings. So, whenever I went to a friend's house where it was more common, it felt like I walked into the weirdest shit ever. Lol, when I was 17, I remember my girlfriend at the time sat on her dad's lap, which I thought was wildly inappropriate, but after being around their family long enough, I realized it wasn't just him. They'd sit on Air mom's lap as well. It's still weird to me, but nothing nefarious. Even if we don't give OP's father the benefit of the doubt, he has been warned to back off, seems to have done so, and has distanced himself. Perhaps he's sulking, but I have a feeling he's mostly just very embarrassed. Don't get me wrong, I do find this weird as well. Lol, I had a coworker recently that would do weird shit and be overly touchy. He's no longer employed. Lol, while I agree, Op seems to know her own mind. She is mostly here for confirmation of what she already knows. I think you hit the nail on the head. He never thought it inappropriate before and now does, and he's deeply embarrassed. Hell, my mom used to pinch my brother in my butt even as teens. We had to have a come to Jesus with her too. As kids, it was funny. As teens, nope. He will get over it eventually, especially if she just lets him know it's cool, just don't do it anymore. She says he's not being a pervert, but she's 17. What's her frame of reference? He's being pervy. Maybe he doesn't even mean to. But touching a girl's ass after she says no and threatening violence is fucking pervy. Greater than touching a girl's ass after she says no, my understanding is that this has not happened. She said no and he got weird about it but did actually stop. At least that's what the original post makes it out like. Dad is being manipulative as if Op was uncomfortable. Mom asked Op if Dad was inappropriate. That right there is telling. Now Dad is trying to make Op feel bad for expressing bodily autonomy. Dad is sus. Dad is wrong. Op is NTA. She is a young woman expressing her right to how she is touched. Again, for the people in the back, Mom asked Op if Dad was inappropriate. Yeah, there's something up with that. There's a history there. If a kid asks one parent to stop touching them, the other parent would be a terrible parent if they didn't check in and ask what was up. I don't think that makes the dad more suspicious as much as it makes the mom a good parent. This, after reading too many stories on Reddit of moms brushing things off and siding with the stepdads when they really were being creepy, it was so nice to see OP's mom checking in to make sure that wasn't happening with her daughter. My parents were certain that since my uncle had abused his daughter and my sister that he would not mess with a boy, so they let him move in when my older sisters went to college. They were incorrect and for years told me I was lying in some kind of solidarity pact with my cousin and sister. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I was happy about that too. It really confirms the girl's concerns showing the skeptics above, saying, hey, he's just messing around, that this is sexual harassment. BS. She was being a good mom because she's alive in this world and has heard just as much about sexual abuse as you have and wants to make sure it isn't the case. Yep, dad's trying to sulk until his daughter withdraws this boundary. Super gross and immature at best. Which one is the child in this relationship? He's trying to get the family upset with her. This, good for mom for asking the right questions, red heart. Narcissism by proxy. I think his feelings just got hurt. He's embarrassed now. I don't think his behaviors is malicious. A grown, mature man does not pout because his feelings are hurt. A grown, mature man does not feel the desire to slap his daughter's butt. Lol, you have to realize not all adults are mature though. Maybe he was being immature, not a good quality, true. But maybe it's not malicious either. IDK, it's purely speculative unless we hear his side too. Slapping a butt isn't always sexual. Don't bet on that. Sounds like you need some more rehab of slap ass SSSSSS. When two guys slap each other's butt after a game, it isn't always sexual. I wouldn't say it's never sexual, but I bet my life savings vast majority there is no sexual connotation. How many women have been accused of being cold, bitter, no fun, etc. when they express discomfort with inappropriate behavior or sexual harassment? Dad is just getting an early start, it seems. Absolutely no excuse for his creepy and manipulative behavior. Wow, excellent point. If I had $1 for every time my EXH said, oh, don't be like that, you are no fun. Because he knows it's very inappropriate and got called out on it by her. Probably got called out by his wife in private too when he went to complain about Op and now he's sulking. So skeevy. He's throwing a tantrum like a man-child. It's sick and manipulative. He is trying to be the victim instead of just showing basic respect for his 17-year-old daughter. Or, Dad is realizing the innocuous action he had been doing for an unbeknownst amount of time was actually harming one of the people he would do anything to protect and is having a hard time coming to terms with that. Perhaps a little more accurate than infantilizing a parent? If this was the case, he would apologize, not double down. He wouldn't take it out on the daughter. So no, not even close. Dad feels bad that he made Op uncomfortable and he might be questioning why he was slapping her butt in the first place. Like, am I a perv? Is there something wrong with me? Or, I would beat up another man if he did that to her. Why have I been doing this all the time? He's likely embarrassed. I mean, he could totally also be a man-child with hurt feelings too. I don't know the man. I would give him a day or two. If he continues to be weird, have your mom help you have a conversati. You are not wrong for asking him to stop. That is fully your right to tell him to stop. Also, my dad used to do this to me and it always made me hugely uncomfortable, but I never had the nerve to tell him, so I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. If this was the case, the appropriate response is not to shame the person who spoke up and cold shoulder them. It's also never okay to minimize the behavior when she stands up for herself. Ever. He is embarrassed at most. Your statement would carry more weight if you didn't try to shame her after her request and then ask if she'd prefer for him to slap her on her head instead. Neither of those statements seem to be one would make to someone whom they would do anything to protect. He's trying to put her in the wrong to cover up the massive shame he should be feeling and to avoid the apology he owes her. Which is suspicious. It may not be totally innocent. Maybe don't slap butts or grab breasts or junk. Not too much to ask. Would both sides be having fun in any of those cases? I suspect not. No, our family, it's definitely a game. If somebody leans over to grab something, you whack them on the backside. I mean, not enough to like hurt or injure them, it's just like a game that everyone plays. And even if you're the one that forgets and got whacked, it's still fun. Just a silly thing that we've done since we were kids. That said, if anybody ever said that they were uncomfortable and wanted us to stop, it would be a non-issue. Everyone would immediately stop. I think slapping a dad slapping his 17-year-old daughter's ass is really offensive. The ass should be a no-touch zone for dads. It is something boyfriends do to girlfriends. Even then, it can be a turn-off. There is a time and place even between girlfriend, BF. That time and place isn't, whenever I feel like it, mutual respect. Edit. I meant to say I agree with you. Save the no-holds-barred butt slaps for marriage like God intended. I now pronounce you man and wife. Whack. I think Dad is kind of coming to terms with it and feels embarrassed now. He probably never really thought it through and still sees her as a little girl. Hopefully this is the case and lightning went off in his head and he fully understands the whole situation. But I see it as him thinking that his daughter sees him as a pervert and he kind of doesn't know what to say yet, hence why mom came to talk to the daughter first. This right here hit the nail on the head. I guarantee this is probably the case. I used to smack my kid playfully on the butt when she was little. She is going to be 11 soon and I stopped doing that a while ago because it feels wildly inappropriate at her age. 17? What dad is smacking his 17-year-old daughter's ass? That's the dude you never let walk a drunk woman home or be in the same house as a sleepover. Skeezy. I think you have it exactly right, at least from what we know from Op. Glad you didn't take the opportunity to turn this into some rant, projection, witch hunt like some of the comments above. Respect and upvote. This would be more reasonable if he wasn't punishing her for his behavior at a manipulative age. I mean, it wouldn't have been appropriate when she was a little girl either. I had to pat my son's bum to get him to sleep as a baby, and he's going on 2, and when I need to rock him to sleep or comfort him, I still find myself doing it. Not everything is sexual. It mimics the beating of a mom's heart when they are in the belly, and it's comforting to littles. Why would it not be okay when she's little in a time like that? Are you serious? This was my only thought. Not that dad is hiding anything, he just isn't sure how to approach this. His daughter isn't a little anymore, and by her calling him out on something she didn't like, he realized it and is just embarrassed. Probably not sure what to say. Dude. If he felt guilty, he wouldn't have threatened her and kept doing it. He only stopped because she made a big deal and mom got involved. Then he sulked like a 5-year-old Dudley Dursley. I don't think it's remorse. Remorse doesn't act like that, he's playing victim. I think the people, react to embarrassment very differently from the ones I know. This is the impression I'm getting from it too. Hopefully he isn't too hard on himself in the long run and realizes she doesn't think about him as a pervert because of this, but also recognizes that she's absolutely in the right to draw the lines when it comes to her own body. Not anyone with common sense, and hopefully he has some would know touching the butt at 17 when the father is frowned upon, at least in America, and hopefully for a while, unlike most of the world SMFH. Have you been to the U.S.? Especially if he doesn't have any sons he can't roughhouse with. He is also realizing her age, boundaries, etc. He is definitely embarrassed, but also a man-child. My dad doesn't have any sons and still managed not to sexually assault me. Hope that helps. Why are you replying to me, LMFAO? Agree, and I have 2 daughters. Would never even imagine that. Seems pretty suspicious to me. Yeah, agreed. Skeptical smiley face, extra suspicious because any reasonable person would take the no and the discomfort and apologize. The fact that he tried to guilt her into going against her boundaries is very unsettling. This is exactly the type of behavior that will put Op at risk for SAW and other types of abusive shit from men. When dads act like this, they're setting daughters up for more in the future. This is why I would never in a million years even consider doing this to one of mine. It's our job as parents to teach them what's acceptable and what's not, and what to do when in uncomfortable situations, etc. We shouldn't be the ones putting them into these situations. Yes, a good father shows his daughter she deserves respect and to get away from any situation that makes her uncomfortable. He would give her the strength to know how to trust her gut and not feel bad about it. This dad is teaching his daughter men can touch her any way they want and then throw tantrums that are meant to have her doubting herself. This situation is sickening, no matter what the dad means by it. I'm so glad to see her not take that lesson to heart and instead call him on his bullshit. Dads should be the safe place in her world, not slapping her ass like a teenager. This, 1 million this. Teaching your kid that they must give in to unwanted touching of a private part if you threaten them and sulk. TF. I get the same vibes here as you do. The ass should be a no-touch zone, period. Not just for dads. No ass slapping unless you're in a relationship with the person and into that sort of thing. It's a funny story for us now, but my uncle for sure thought he was going to be arrested because he swatted a spider off my low back and grazed my butt. Hip. I was like 12 to 13 and he told me what was happening as he did it, so I was never concerned. But it was such an ingrained no-touch zone that he was really worried. Removing a bug is like the only other acceptable reason to slap there, and Op's dad is giving weirdo predator vibes. And they explicitly consent to it. In the US, athletes get slapped on the ass all the time by other athletes and staff. It's an entirely generic gesture of encouragement. It's one of those small things that even after decades in this country I still find odd. It's gross. And given how many coaches are pedos, I'd say that little tradition needs to go. Yay. I'm really not too worried about what other people think when it comes to my relationship with my own kids, but I have to say it would feel really wrong to slap or pat my kids' butts. I guess if my toddler got in my lap, I may scoop him up and maybe pat his outer thigh or maybe butt to get him settled in, but after that age, it wouldn't seem right. That said, I still snuggle and cuddle all of them if they want to. I'm not against being affectionate. Just not slapping my kids' butts. I didn't like it when other guys did it in sports either, so maybe I'm just really aware of how awkward it is. I wouldn't even do it to a partner in public. Overall, it seems disrespectful, if not creepy. Baby butts, still in diapers, are okay to pat, especially if it brings on sleep or stops them from crying. Actual kids? Nope, aged out of that program completely. It's also a thing footballers, soccer, do, although I've never known why. Edit. Although that's probably more a tap than a slap. The ass should be a no-touch zone, period. Especially for dads, because you would hope they'd know to respect their child's boundaries, but I've also had a female coworker slap me on the ass and I was stunned. Who does that? Just because you're also a girl, it doesn't make it okay for you to go around slapping other girls on the ass. Exactly, and this can create a very unhealthy view of affection in the future, which to me is a huge flag for sexual assault. If this were happening in the workplace and he reacted this way, he would likely be fired or sent to a SAW class. Additionally, if your dad is slapping your butt and then your boyfriend starts too, it's going to create a very uncomfortable environment for her in the future when she views this as a paternal action, not a sign of intimacy. Exactly. I jokingly slap, lightly tap, my wife's ass, but have never even had the thought to do that to my daughter. That's just wildly inappropriate and super weird. Exactly this. It's not appropriate. Even a mom, honestly. My mom used to slap my butt until my 20s when I finally spoke up. Just respect your freaking children's bodies. Dad is probably closer to 50, I would think. I don't know why it was a thing. But I played a few sports and they all had ass or back slapping. Yes, and also for sports partners after a good play. Butt slaps are for my bros only. Yeah, like a playful slap on the arm or with ease fine, but come on. And the dad realized that what he was doing can be seen as inappropriate even if he didn't mean it to be. He's embarrassed and worried he will appear a pedo, so he's backing away from all father-daughter contact, including his baby. I know you said you aren't good with talking to him, but you need to. Sit down with him and tell him, he was playing around, but you have a right to set a boundary he needs to respect. You don't feel anything about it except you want it to stop. You should speak to him, as it may be awkward now and he may pull away and damage your relationship. It depends on their relationship. I know lots of kids who grew up playing sports where dad was a coach, and a little ass slapping was just part of the experience. It may simply be one of those things that's been happening since she was a kid and dad never saw it as anything to even bat an eye at. But now she's growing up and dad's having a, my little girl isn't a little girl anymore moment. Congratulations. Why are you responding this to my comment? You see, they want to share their opinion, duh. Why did you respond to a comment? But why am I here? I don't think that you are. Who are you talking to? There's no one there. Damn, you right, my bad. I didn't endorse ass slaps. I expanded on types of acceptable touch between a father and 17-year-old. Papuga Pop commented as though I was on board with ass slaps. It was very confusing. Carrot, this dude's like, whoa, hold up now, I just want to clarify. Well, because your comment makes it sound like you endorse ass slaps. Because that's what the comment says. Because your comment could be read as slapping a nearly adult woman on the ass is just horseplay. Why would it though? Like taking that stance as a response to types of acceptable touch as opposed to using a top-level comment makes no sense. My dad slapped my ass and I didn't like it. Yeah, here's a list of acceptable touching. Right. But 17 isn't too old for horseplay. You're still in the discussion of whether ass slapping is acceptable, and it's not unreasonable to read your comment that way. They clearly did and responded. Then you come back with, why would you continue this conversation? You're being rude. Based on the votes on the top-level comment, I think more people are interpreting it as intended. Less of a, right, but, and more of a, yes, also. I'm not saying what you said is bad or wrong. I just explained why that person responded to you in that way. More people interpreted it the way I intended than not, is generally good, but it doesn't negate that the way you didn't intend is still reasonable. As a former 17-year-old girl now with a nearly 17-year-old daughter, no. Slapping her butt is not horseplay, and no, she is not having fun. They weren't saying she is. Up is obviously not okay with it, and I am super proud and happy she said something about it. Getting a slap on the butt, really a quick tap, can be horseplay or sporty though. The problem isn't a slap on the butt, the problem is not liking something and someone doing it anyway. OP's father is a giant asshole and a terrible father. I hope her family supports her. That's not horseplay. It verges on assault. She has a right to determine who touches her body and how. IDK. As a woman, and victim of early childhood incest, so may be biased. Don't touch your daughter's butts after they can wipe their own. There is no good reason, emo, even horseplay, to touch a child's private areas. I consider boobs, privates, and bottoms to be sensitive areas, and some girls will be uncomfortable having those touched. As evidence here. Better just to play it safe and let them feel safe. She's not having fun. Yep, wife has said exactly this. She was hurt when she became a teen and her dad started treating her like glass, even though he kept being the same old dad with her brothers. Exactly, dad of a 17 and 16-year-old, and they practically begged me for the out-of-control tickle fights we have. Sometimes clothes fall, but who cares? We are competitive and there is nothing sexual about it. All this bullshit makes me sick. And the horseplay you describe feels completely different than touching what is considered a private or personal part of her body. That's the part that is the issue more than anything. I have a feeling if he gave her a little shoulder punch or nudge, she wouldn't be upset. I understand the father might feel a little shameful or embarrassed and could have meant zero harm whatsoever. But it's the punishing behavior and pouting that is just outrageous from an adult. Look at the comment above mine that I was actually commenting on. Hugs, kiss on the top of the head, high fives, asterisk. My oldest would feel absolutely neglected if this was the full range of attention they got from me. Exactly. There's nothing wrong with play wrestling or throwing her into a pool. Again, as long as these things are things she enjoys. But just slapping her ass randomly is skeevy at any age. Especially at 17 though. Thanks for saying this. It's totally unreasonable for Op to dislike it, and her father should respect it and stop being a baby. But I also don't think it's totally inappropriate, again, if it's not sexual and both sides don't mind the horseplay. Affection between parents and their children of the opposite sex should not be sexualized. Sure, seems like Op just gave notice that this isn't fun for her. So father's pouting about it. Now what again is the point of your post? Regarding your last, needlessly hostile line? That comment is pretty clearly building on the previous one, adding that more forms of contact can be fine beyond the limited list given, with the stipulation that it's cool for everyone and not inappropriate. You're on the same side here. I get that you want to start blasting. But that's not your guy. She's not having fun. Both sides are not having fun. But would a dad slap his 17-year-old son's butt? I'm going to say not likely. I have seen it. Ass slaps between dudes in a sports setting are pretty common. You know, the defining factor in what makes it okay or not. If both sides are having fun. I've seen it on those cases, but not with a dad to teen son. I was that case. Me and my brothers, and occasionally, my dad, would slap each other hard on the ass when they weren't expecting it and exclaim, "Good game." It was in the same line of messing around, like snapping each other with towels. It was all consensual and funny. Good to know, smiley face. I'm going to say it would be much more likely than a dad slapping his 17-year-old daughter's ass. I love horseplay with my daughters. As they've gotten older, the situations for it have lessened, probably for the best because I get more out of shape and they get stronger. My 14-year-old came up to me in the kitchen the other day, put her fists up and started bouncing around throwing playful punches at me. I tossed a few back to keep her from getting too comfortable, and she was teasing me that I wasn't as tough as her. It was a lot of fun. No one got hurt. Maybe my pride because she landed some oohed once on my arm, and she left laughing and out of breath from horsing around with dad. That's not horseplay. Smacking a grown woman's butt is sexualized in our society. It is. If she was 7, it would mean, move. But no one smacks adult butts for that reason. It is sexual and he knows it, which is why he feels so weird, 'cause he got called out. Greater than asterisk asterisk edit. Asterisk asterisk. So there are a bunch of people interpreting this as an endorsement of the dad's behavior. It's not. We clearly have one side not having fun. Greater than what I am endorsing is don't treat your girls like they are suddenly made of glass when they hit their teen years. Especially true if you have boys that you continue to play rough with. Some father-daughter bonding takes the form of rough play like splash fights and pushing each other in the snow and shouldering each other over for space and the couch, and a million other forms of less gentle touch that they typically don't get from moms. It is harmful for girls if this is the type of attention they crave and it's denied to them because they are girls. So to reiterate, 17 isn't too old for horseplay so long as both sides are having fun. I read all that and I don't agree at all. I read your both sides thing. And I don't think it's fun for a woman post-puberty to have her butt smacked by a family member. I think it's sexual, as I said, because that's how it's viewed by our society. And I have a close, fun relationship with my dad, who was a Boy Scout leader, and close, fun relationships with both my older brothers. Just for context about me, they would agree with me on that it's not horseplay and that it would be sexual post-pube. Aren't me to ever touch my butt. Where in anything that I have said do you see me saying it's okay to smack her butt? I'm really confused as to where that is coming from multiple people. I agree with you. It's not okay, and I don't think I have ever said that it was. And honestly, it doesn't sound like you have daughters or sisters. I think you just want to normalize something that is not normal under the guise that you care about young women needing to be treated with some toughness, without actually knowing personally what young women need. My mom used to be horribly embarrassed when my dad and I would shoulder barge each other in the supermarket when doing the groceries. You're an idiot. Sounds like you want to hit teenagers for fun, sicko. I body checked a 12-year-old onto their bed yesterday for yelling, "You ain't big time," and running away giggling. It felt like they were looking for some rough housing attention, so I gave it to them. Anyway, should I turn myself in or just wait for CPS to show up? I don't really see how slapping your son or daughter's butt is a part of rough play. I just think this is one of those weird family situations similar to parents making out with their teens. It's obvious what is normal and what isn't, and they really shouldn't abuse their positions of authority as parents to do whatever they want. When the kids get older and look back on these experiences, it is traumatizing and embarrassing. Sure, bro, splash fights and incessant ass slapping are definitely in the same category. Just call it all horseplay, and you're good to go. I'm glad you said some, because if my dad had tried rough play with us gills, we would have freaked. Absolutely. Some parents don't have a rough and tumble girls or a rough housing relationship with their girls, and that's totally fine. I know my oldest would feel neglected if the rough housing suddenly disappeared. Who the fuck think touching, slapping your daughter's ass, a sexual act, is horseplay? I guess you do. You insist you don't support father, then go on a huge rant about horseplay being okay? Not the time or place, buddy. Horseplay, smacking your 17-year-old daughter's ass. Just good old fun. As a mom, I would totally shoulder my preteen, who is currently wearing my pants, shoes, and jackets, out of the way for the last brownie, or the prime spot on the couch. I just assumed everybody roughhoused. He's still touching her ass, calling her cold and bitter at being denied free access, which he has no right to. No one does. And then emotionally punishing her for setting a reasonable boundary. This isn't horseplay, roughhousing. It's creepy. Agreed. That's why my comment was an answer to greater than exactly. Hug. Maybe a kiss on the top of the head. High five. High fives are good. And not the op. Not backing anyone touching private areas. Just saying limiting contact to the gentlest of touch isn't necessarily meeting your kids' needs to feel loved. My oldest would feel neglected if I limited our physical contact to hugs, kisses, and high fives as we do bond through rough housing. Oh yeah, I wasn't trying to get at you. I'm sorry I wrote it in that way. It was more frustration at the dad here. But to your point, yes, physical contact between parents and children is almost always a must. It's so good for kids and their parents. That oxytocin is key to developing, which makes this dad's behavior all the more questionable. I would rather overreact and be wrong than not react at all but be right in my suspicions. I get you. If you look at the other responses, I have just become a punching bag here from people who have misinterpreted what was said as me condoning the dad's actions. It can be hard to have people read intent on the internet, and it always seems like people take clarification as doubling down, when it often isn't. Well, let's hope the rest of your week goes better, stranger. Slapping butt isn't horseplay, and it's weird once women start to mature, don't you get that? Agreed. That's why my comment was an answer to greater than exactly. Hug. Maybe a kiss on the top of the head. High five. High fives are good. And not the op. Not backing anyone touching private areas. Just saying limiting contact to the gentlest of touch isn't necessarily meeting your kids' needs to feel loved. My oldest would feel neglected if I limited our physical contact to hugs, kisses, and high fives as we do bond through rough housing. Snapping bra straps. That's a yikes from me. I don't condone any touching of private areas, and snapping underwear or bras is too close to that for me. Was just joking. But yeah, I agree. Sorry, I have been getting thoroughly flogged by people who think I am taking the father's side here as opposed to responding to the comment above mine. No worries. Slapping your daughter's butt as a man? No, not horseplay, it's disgusting. The sky is blue, I didn't make it so. This is disgusting. Agreed. That's why my comment was an answer to greater than exactly. Hug. Maybe a kiss on the top of the head. High five. High fives are good. And not the op. Not backing anyone touching private areas. Just saying limiting contact to the gentlest of touch isn't necessarily meeting your kids' needs to feel loved. My oldest would feel neglected if I limited our physical contact to hugs, kisses, and high fives as we do bond through roughhousing. All my life, my dad would do a football-style shoulder into my sister's gut and pick her up over his shoulder and do big ARR or G type yell. We were all at my parents' house for Easter and he tried to do it, but couldn't lift her up all the way and they crashed to the ground. It was very funny. Consent and communication are key, as with all relationships. My partner visited my family this weekend and was like, "Your mom came up and punched my arm and then looked horrified when I flinched. Then hit me twice more." Had to explain it's her way of saying, "Good job," rolling on the floor laughing. He was equally surprised by family mosh pit. You're never too old to roughhouse with your fam. I've never thought of butt slapping as horseplay. How the heck are we defining horseplay? Where and when does it occur? Even in the locker room, KY and Peel had the right take. It's just weird to slap someone's butt. Agreed. That's why my comment was an answer to greater than exactly. Hug. Maybe a kiss on the top of the head. High five. High fives are good. And not the op. Not backing anyone touching private areas. Just saying limiting contact to the gentlest of touch isn't necessarily meeting your kids' needs to feel loved. My oldest would feel neglected if I limited our physical contact to hugs, kisses, and high fives as we do bond through roughhousing. Sir, slapping someone's butt is not horseplay. Agreed. That's why my comment was an answer to greater than exactly. Hug. Maybe a kiss on the top of the head. High five. High fives are good. And not the op. Not backing anyone touching private areas. Just saying limiting contact to the gentlest of touch isn't necessarily meeting your kids' needs to feel loved. My oldest would feel neglected if I limited our physical contact to hugs, kisses, and high fives as we do bond through roughhousing. Gotcha. Yes, that makes sense. I think best advice is to openly communicate and also pay attention to body language to understand what their needs are and what feels good, bad. Smacking someone's butt, on the other hand, is just so far outside of the kind of physical touch that makes someone feel loved. I will say it should be considered obviously different. Doesn't seem like that is why he's doing it, and if so, that's a concerning way to show that. Horseplay is fine. The ass slapping is super weird either way you cut it. Agreed. That's why my comment was an answer to greater than exactly. Hug. Maybe a kiss on the top of the head. High five. High fives are good. And not the op. Not backing anyone touching private areas. Just saying limiting contact to the gentlest of touch isn't necessarily meeting your kids' needs to feel loved. My oldest would feel neglected if I limited our physical contact to hugs, kisses, and high fives as we do bond through roughhousing. Sorry, I might have phrased that oddly, but I understood you and was voicing agreement. All good. A lot of people have been misinterpreting my message and acting like I am on the dad's side, so I have been actively responding. Perfect answer. I still personally think 17 is probably too old for butt slaps from dad, but then again, I'm 36 and slap all the butts of the guys on my rec baseball team. It's not taken sexually or inappropriately. I don't know. My daughter isn't even 2 yet. I guess ask me again in 15 years how I feel about it. Agreed. Don't treat them like turned to glass. Treat them always like they are respected as humans. Don't slap your 9 or 12-year girls' butts either. Come on, is this really a debate? Whether it's okay to slap our daughters' asses? WTF. Please look at the comment I was replying to. At no point did I say it was okay to slap anyone's ass. As confirmation that you have maybe read this wrong, do you think a pro-ass slapping comment would be plus 300 on the vote? But she isn't having fun. She asked him to stop and he's pouting. Nope. Agreed. Please see my third sentence. Greater than it's not. We clearly have one side not having fun. I'm really getting sick of people with poor reading comprehension shitting on me here. 100% thank you for saying this. My dad and I used it with each other all the time. He was the best dad ever, and if he acted the way some are saying he should have, the best part of my years with him would have never existed and our relationship would not have been so tight. I'd be a whole different woman. I'm a proponent of piggyback rides up until such a time that they are physically difficult for the parents to do.